David Smith here with another Flip Classroom math video. A few tips before we start. Remember that you can slow down or speed up the playback if that helps you follow along. You can also pause the video at any point to catch up with your notes or to try the problems before I explain them. Finally, you could turn on the captions and read my words below on the bottom of your screen. Today's topic, quadratic functions. So we've spent quite a bit of time dealing with quadratics over the last months, and so now we're going to finish that off with this concept of a function. So I want to go over that real clearly before we go further along. A function is something that takes an x value as an input, you put x into it, and it spits out a y. Now what is a function? That's just a quadratic equation. In fact, these two words can be used interchangeably. We can say the function or the equation. However, there are some essential understandings that come with this term function that we will develop in this chapter. Okay, so for example, I have my little setup here. I've got 3. This is my input. Here's my function. This is a box. Y equals x squared. So when I put 3 in for x, I'll square it, and the output is 9. Okay? So the function y equals x squared takes the 3, the input, squares it, and spits out a 9 for the output. Okay, so that's pretty much what a function does. It's an equation that just takes an input number and does some math to it. This is obviously a pretty simple function. We get more complicated, but it does math to it and then spits out a y, which is our output. Okay, 2 more pieces of vocabulary for you. The input is called the domain, and the output is called the range. Now these are just vocab words that you're going to need to know. So here's my trick for remembering. Domain, my domain. I control this thing. That's the input. I get to decide what goes in for x. So that's the domain. The output, the range is out there, like the range where the cattle graze on the grass. So the range is determined by the function. That determines what the range is. So again, my domain for this case was 3. The function spit out a 9, which is the range. Okay, so those are some key vocab words that go with this unit. Okay, let's review the general form for a quadratic equation. But let's use the new words. So this is the general form for quadratic functions. This should be familiar to you. Y equals ax squared plus bx plus c, where a, b, and c are the function's coefficients. So for example, here's a quadratic function, y equals 2x squared minus 3x plus 4. So my a coefficient is 2, my b coefficient is minus 3, and my c coefficient is 4. Okay, let's do a problem of the type you might see in the homework with this lesson. Finding y given x. So this is going to give you the x value. You need to plug it into the function to find the output, which is the y value. Okay? So here's that function again where we took a look at it just a minute ago. Now we're being asked, find y when x is 2. Okay? So think about how you might do that. Pause the video and give it a hard thought, and if you got it, go ahead and do that math and find out what y is. Okay, let's walk you through that. When x is 2, that means plug 2 in wherever x shows up. I'm going to show you this in function notation. Actually, I'm going to skip that for now. Let's do that. So y equals 2 times 2 squared minus 3 times 2 plus 4. And I urge you to do the plug-in step like this so it's really clear where you're plugging in. Remember, x is 2, so wherever you see x in this function, you're going to put a 2 in there. Okay? I didn't do any math. I just did a plug-in step. Okay, now let's start crunching the numbers. Remember, I have to square this first before I multiply it by 2. So 2 squared is 4, times 2 is 8. Get 8. 3 times 2 is 6, so 8 minus 6 plus 4. So what do we get? This is indeed 6. What I'd like you to do is try to find y when x is -1, okay? So same type of problem, but instead of plugging in 2 for x, we're going to plug in -1 for x. and you're plugging it into this function here. So go ahead and pause the video and see if you can finish that problem. Okay, let's see how you did. Plug-in step. Y equals 2 times x squared, so that's 2 times minus 1 squared, because I'm plugging in negative 1 for x, minus 3 times negative 1 plus our 4 from there. Okay, so that's a complete plug-in step. I didn't do any plug-and-chug math. I just plugged in my value for x. So let's go ahead and finish that off. Negative 1 squared is 1 times 2 is 2. Minus 3 times minus 1 is plus 3, and then plus 4. So we have 2 plus 3 plus 4, that's 9. So y equals 9. Now that you've finished, write down any questions so you can bring them to our next class and get some help. Remember that you can always watch the video again to improve your understanding. If you enjoyed it, please click the like button down below, and if you'd like to help me grow my YouTube channel, please click subscribe.